Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtakayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki.
Welcome to Rasanath Prabhu, Vrindavan Vinodini, and Vrindavan Prabhu. Thank you very much for joining us. Because today is the first Bhagavatam class, I'm going to read a verse appropriate. Well, all verses can be made appropriate or are appropriate already for our purposes. But this one especially helps to frame our purpose in coming together here. And you'll find it on your electronic device. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.31. And this chapter is entitled Liberation from the Illusory Energy. And I'll say the word meanings first, the synonyms. And if you like, please repeat after me and then we'll chant the verse. Smarantaha,
Smarantaha,
remembering,
remembering,
Smarayantaha cha, Smarayanta cha, and reminding. So there's a nice beginning to the verse you can always remember because it starts Smarayanta cha, which means remembering Krishna and causing other people to remember Krishna. Mito, mitaha, one another. Aga oga haram. Aga reminds you of Aghasura, right? He's the demon, iconic figure of composite of all sinful activities. And Oga means horrible, like Ugra. And Haram means one who takes away, like Krishna's name is Hari. So Aga Oga Haram. Aga Oga Haram. Who takes away everything inauspicious from the devotee. Harim, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktya, by devotion. Sanjataya, awakened. Bhaktya, by devotion. Viprati, possesses. Ulakam, agitated by ecstasy. Tanum, body. Now chant and please repeat. Smaranta smarayantascha. Mito gaudha haram harim. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Vibrat yupulakam tanum. Smaranta smarayantascha. Mito gaudha haram harim. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Vibrat yupulakam tanum. Smaranta smarayantascha. Mito gaudha haram harim. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Vibrat yupulakam tanum. Let's have a few chanters. Belt it up.
Smaranta Gaugaharam Harim Abhyāsanjātaya Bhaktya Vibrati Utpulakam Tanum Smaranta Smarayantascha Mito Gaugaharam Harim Abhyāsanjātaya Bhaktya Vibrati Utpulakam Tanum Smaranta Smarayantascha Mito Gaugaharam Harim Abhyāsanjātaya Bhaktya Vibrati Utpulakam Tanum Smaranta Smarayantascha Mito Gaugaharam Harim Abhyāsanjātaya Bhaktya Vibrati Utpulakam Tanum.
Anyone 14 or under?
Smaranta Smarayantascha Mito Gaugaharam Harim Abhyāsanjātaya Bhaktya Vibrati Utpulakam Tanum Smarayantascha Mito Gaugaharam Harim Abhyāsanjātaya Bhaktya Vibrati Utpulakam Tanum.
Over 70. Anyone? Okay. Translation. The devotees of the Lord constantly discuss the glories of the personality of God among themselves. Thus, they constantly remember the Lord and remind one another of His qualities and pastimes. In this way, by their devotion to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the devotees please the personality of Godhead, who takes away from them everything inauspicious. Being purified of all impediments, the devotees awaken to pure love of Godhead. And thus, even within this world, their spiritualized bodies exhibit symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, such as standing of the bodily hairs on end. How about, I'll say it a little bit at a time, and then you can repeat.
Yes.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
The devotees of the Lord constantly discuss the glories of the personality of Godhead
Constantly discuss the glories of the personality of Godhead
among themselves. Thus, they constantly remember the Lord and remind one another of His qualities and pastimes. In this way, by their devotion to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the devotees please the personality of Godhead, who takes away from them everything inauspicious, being purified of all impediments. The devotees awaken to pure love of Godhead. And thus, even within this world, their spiritualized bodies exhibit symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, such as standing of the bodily hairs on end. Purport by the servants of His Divine Grace, A.Z. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, servants of His Divine Grace, A.Z. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. The word Agauga Haram is very significant in this verse. Aga refers to that which is inauspicious or sinful. The living entity is actually Satchit Ananda Vigraha, Brahma Samhita 5.1, or eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. But by neglecting his eternal relationship with Krishna, the personality of Godhead, he commits sinful activities and undergoes the inauspicious result in the form of material suffering. The chain of sinful reactions is called ogha, or a relentless wave of suffering. Krishna is a Gauga Harim. He takes away the sinful reactions of his devotees, who are thus entitled to experience the inconceivable bliss of the kingdom of God, even while remaining in this world. I'll read the last sentence divided by a semicolon beginning. Krishna is a Gauga Harim. What is he? He takes away the sinful reactions of his devotees, who are thus entitled to experience the inconceivable bliss of the kingdom of God even while remaining in this world. The words bhaktya, sanjataya, bhaktya indicate that there are two main divisions of bhakti yoga, sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti. Srila Prabhupada has elaborately explained in his book, The Nectar of Devotion, the progress of the devotee from sadhana bhakti, or the execution of regulated principles, to prema bhakti, or service executed in love of Godhead. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a liberated soul is always enthusiastic due to the appearance of transcendental ecstasy within his body. Thus, he always aspires to remain overwhelmed in chanting the glories of the personality of God, Hari. And before I start, I offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who saved the whole world by bringing the Sankirtan movement, and especially his transcendental literatures, which are fit to be distributed in every town and village and every language of the world. And that work must be done by us, because we're the ones here. Okay? And to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because nobody's better than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a combined form of Radha and Krishna. He comes as a devotee to show us the path of devotional service. And he's very, very beautiful. And to the Panchatattva, because when one chants the names of the Panchatattva, then one's path is clear to chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offense. And the Panchatattva are the Lord, is the Lord, manifested in 5 features to show the various relationships that he has with all living entities. And to the great Acharyas, we offer our respectful obeisances, because they're fully absorbed in of the mellows of devotional service, and they painstakingly write about them for posterity, and we're the beneficiaries of their writings. And I offer my respectful obeisances to all the assembled devotees, because you, out of billions of people on the planet, have chosen to come here to Jagannath Puri just to chant, dance, and remember the Lord and remind others in our group. And we consider everyone in Jagannath Puri, we're part of their group, so we want to share with them while we're here and distribute no fewer than 5,000 transcendental literatures in the next 5 days. Agreed? Okay. Om tat-sad. Before I start, does anybody have any questions about the verse or an observation? Yes, Bali Prabhu. We'll have to use the microphones because we have these otherworldly devices here, and they're all hooked up to the internet.
Hare Krishna. Now just wondering, in the purport you mentioned about sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti, but in our Vedavis it says Raganuga Bhakti. Just wanted to.
Says what?
It says Raganuga Bhakti.
Radha?
Raganuga Bhakti. So just wanted to mention that how it's different. Is it same in your?
Which
Raganuga
line
Bhakti?
is it?
Second paragraph.
The words of Bhakti Sanjata indicate that there are two divisions of Bhakti Yoga, Sadhana Bhakti and Prema Bhakti.
So yeah, it says here in Raganuga Bhakti.
Are you on the Veda base?
Yes.
Oh. Well, it's just, what's the question?
No, I just mentioned that.
Why
Is it
it's like
same?
that, or what's the difference between the two things?
Yeah, what's the difference? Is there any height?
It's semantics, but Raganuga is specifically about following the ways of the residents of Vrindavan. As I quoted last night, Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyoja Tishnan Vraje Tananuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayeda Kilamiti Padesha Saram. Hare Krishna Mahendra Prabhu, thanks for coming. Here, Rupa Goswami gives the saram of Upadesh, means the essence of advice, which is that the process of devotional service awakens by intensive and extensive hearing about the Lord, and that is parallel with the meaning of our verse today, Smarantas Smarayantas Cha, Mito Gauga Haram Harim, that the devotees come together. Krishna even says it in the Bhagavad Gita, Machita Makata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantash Chamam Nityam Tushanti Cha Ramanti Cha. This is the preoccupation of the devotees, that their consciousness, chitta, machita, makata prana, and their prana. Prana is subtle energy. It's part of the energy that is stimulated at the beginning of the universe that runs all the functions of our body and our minds. And that is fully absorbed in Krishna. Machita makata prana bodhayantas, they have an awakening, chaparasparam, by the exchange of discussing Krishna with one another. And by that process, Rupa Goswami mentions in the verse, one becomes attracted to the mood of the devotees in Vrindavan. Why Vrindavan? Because this is the ultimate destination for those, for the most part, who are following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to hear about Krishna and his energies, understand tattva. In the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami says, Tachadadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaye pashantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shutra grihitaya. One must be fortified by understanding the categories of energies in the world. He also, even before that, says, Vedanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnana madvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. Should understand that this is advaya gyan tattva, means there's one truth, it's Krishna, he's one, but there's varieties within the one. Not a boring philosophy like the Mayavadis, where there's nothing, or you become one with the Lord. The eternal engagement of every conscious soul, which is intense loving devotion to the Lord. And the most intense of all the loving relationships with the Lord are exhibited by those in Vrindavan. And therefore, he says, does Rupa Goswami, that by hearing systematically about all the energies of the Lord, how they work, gradually our interest in the material world is diminished, step by step, through, it's a vicarious process, because when the word vicarious means that you experience something through someone else. And then you're able to purge your interest in the material world. For instance, hearing about in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranjana, we're treated to the opportunity to listen into a story that Narada Muni tells to King Prajinabarishat. And we know that the story's about King Prajinabarishat. So there's a slight sense of voyeurism that we're listening into somebody else's conversation. And we're privy to the fact that Narada Muni is giving an allegory that is meant to purify King Prajinabarishat. Catharsis, which means to purge those things, aga oga haram harim, to get rid of those burdensome desires that he's carrying. He's attached, as are all conditioned souls, to something, a combination of permutations of something, everybody. And so he tells the story, and we get to listen in. But as we listen, we become aware, from the safety of our own residence, that the story is also about us. That creeping sense of, oh, this is also about me. Because as Narada tells the story, we hear that King Prajinabarishat, as he's listening to the story, he hears about Puranjana, who's looking for a place to get an apartment. I mean, everyone's looking for that ultimate place. If you drive down the coast of California from San Francisco to Los Angeles along Highway 101, you have to go by 1? All right, Highway 1, you'll find little hamlets by the beach, will you not? And many people think, well, the weather is much better than my hometown in Illinois, or Chicago, or Texas. Sorry, I don't mean to demean any region of the world, but California's pretty nice. So then it might come into the mind of somebody that, well, what if I lived here? I might enjoy the ocean side, and I may live in a little house. And who would live with me in the house? I would like a companion, and we'll enjoy together forever. This was the story that Narada was telling, not about Highway 1, but about the universe as a place for enjoyment of the living being, that let me find my residence here. Well, Krishna gives a spoiler alert in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartino arjuna mamupete tukonteya punar janmana vidyate. In one verse, he categorically, and sorry to use such a harsh word, condemns the whole material world. And which part of it? Well, let's see. From the lowest planet to the highest planet, pretty much covers everything. But then he also hints at the fact that one may escape this unsavory region for that place in which we'll feel satisfied and we'll never want to return to the material world. So as we hear the story, we may sense through this vicarious process of hearing about somebody else that, oh, that's just like me. And we hear the same device in the story that every movie, play uses, whether it's a comedy, tragedy, or a history. 3 kinds of plays that Shakespeare wrote, that the plot thickens. When? When does the plot thicken? Boy meets girl. That's it. And the Bhagavatam informs us throughout that this is the way that the plot thickens in the material world, and that's the way the knot in the heart thickens, that's the way everything gets thick. Pumsastriya maitini bhavamitam toyo mitu hridaya grantamahu ato griya kshetra sutapta viter janasi moho yamahamba meti. Just what I said. I was looking for a little house by the ocean. And maybe we'll have a little garden. And a little cat. And the cat will love us so much. Whatever it may be. This is where the plot thickens, and we have the sense of watching when Puranjana meets this attractive girl, and depending on our own disposition, we may see what's coming. And he says to her, how about it? And by the way, who are you? And she says, I don't know. He said, where are you from? She said, I don't know that either. I just know we're here now. And this is the sense of the living being in the material world who's forgotten where he's from, what his purpose is. And if we then are taken on the journey, a not unfamiliar journey, where Puranjana gets married, moves into a house, and then gets bored. And so how does he get bored? Because everybody gets bored in the material world. Because it's the same old thing over and over again. Prahlad Maharaj, he was 5 years old, and he said it to the whole world, Punak punash charvita charvananam. He said, you're chewing stuff that's already been chewed. It's all been done and more. There's nothing unique about the material world. It looked like a good idea. It still looks like a good idea, but you need information and an intervention from the divine source. And it's not good enough to get an intervention that says, stop doing this, because we can't. Nahi kashit shanamapi jatu tishtatya karma karyate hyavasha karma sarva prakriti jaira gunai. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, a fundamental principle of us, good to know what we're like, is that we can't stop doing anything even for a moment. Try it. It's not possible. We can be suspended in sleep, but then we dream and we go places. And so the Bhagavatam takes us to the spiritual world by showing us that this material world is a lost cause unless one knows how to utilize everything in Krishna's service. And as one lives in the material world, there's a recourse by which one can transfer one's attention and then one's emotions to the spiritual world. And this is the Raga-anuga. We're following those who already have eternal identities in the spiritual world, and we're transferring our temporary identities, which don't mean much because they change all the time. Bhagavatam even gives these ideas about gender and sadhumya. It's an interesting story in the Bhagavatam. In the Krishna Karnamrita, you find in the commentary by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, they sometimes refer to sadhumya and how he changes. You know the story? He goes into Lord Shiva's realm, and then Parvati curses not only he, but all his retinue, including his horses and everything, that you came into there was a no trespassing sign, you came in anyway, and so it cursed you to all become female. So his whole army, including the king, turns into female. And then he pleads his case, special case, please. He said, okay, every other month you can be a man. And switching back and forth. And so there's this also, Bhagavatam gives us a sense of the fluidity of our identity here in the material world. Based on the body, it can change. Based on the mind, it changes from one thing to the next. But our real identity is in the spiritual world. So how would one cultivate that? By hearing about the roles of the devotees in their eternal identities as ecstatic servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's a natural progression of attraction that occurs for those who somehow or other, tasmat kenapyupayana mana krishna niveshayat. This is from 7th canto, 1st chapter, verses 31 through 33. We're told how by any kind of emotion that we have in connection with Krishna, we'll be transformed. This is a good starting place. As he says, kama dvesha bhayasnehad yata bhakteshvare manaha. Avesha. Now this is a very important word. It's a key word in this verse. Avesha. Agam hitva. So avesha comes from the Sanskrit root word vish, from which Vishnu comes. And vish means to enter something. So avesha has various meanings. It means to dwell somewhere. It also means to invest in something. We put our money in one place because we think we're going to get a good return. And in this case, avesha, it indicates absorption. Avesha tad-gatam hitva. Bhavos tad-gatim gata. This is the verse is stating that bhavos, many people, tad-gatim gata, have attained the supreme destination because of what? Kama, lust. For whom? Krishna. Dvesha, anger against Krishna. Kama dvesha, bhaya, fear of Krishna. Snehad, affection, or yata bhakteshvare manaha, or devotion, devotional service like we're practicing. It'll all work, the verse is saying. Because avesha tad-gatam hitva, because it's in connection to Krishna, that emotion is in connection to Krishna, then it will enter us, vish. That enters our hearts. This is the process of raganuga, that by hearing and association of devotees, bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, we remind others and we're reminded by others of Krishna. Then gradually that emotional energy of those who are in relationship with Krishna, it enters into us. The next verse, 32, it says, Gopya Kamat Bayad Kamso. So it starts naming. It's Narada speaking. So, sorry, Narada is saying that the gopis of Vrindavan, famous gopis of Vrindavan, I was in a class given by Anuttama Prabhu, highly recommend it. It's a 4 or 5 day seminar of leadership and management. If you want to save money on an MBA, just take this. 5 days, you got it all. And in the class, he was asking in an interactive session about rewards, how you would reward devotees for various kinds of services to encourage them. And somebody raised their hand and said, more service? And without skipping a beat, Anuttama said, yeah, if they're a gopi. And then he went to the next question. And that made an impression on me, because I was thinking, wow, for those who are following the path of pure devotional service and the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan, there's this ethos that, what do we want? More service. Unmotivated, uninterrupted. This is the declaration at the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pumso, for all people. Paro dharmo, what's the dharma? It has nothing to do, the main dharma, with our bodily designations. Yato bhakti rahoksajay. It's all about devotional service to Krishna. And what's the quality that will satisfy the soul? Ahaituki. There's no cause for it. In other words, no one's expecting any result. They just want to serve for service for service. There's no sense of entitlement. There's no sense that, Krishna, I served you, where's my stuff? I put a rupee in the box. I want at least $1 million back because you're the supreme giver. Nothing that resembles that. There's only sense of Krishna, I want to serve you because you're wonderful. And that's what I do. Prahlad Maharaj set the standard. After his father was killed, Lord Nrsimhadev told Prahlad, I'm Bhagavan, you're my servant, take a benediction. Prahlad said, no thank you, sir. He said, I'm not a merchant. I didn't come here for a deal. I serve you, you're my eternal Lord, that's it. That's the foundation for all natural life. So, haitukiya pratiyata, and then it's not interrupted by anything. Ahaitukiya pratiyata. Last line. Suprasidati. Prasidati means it's the same root as prashad. Mercy. Mercy naturally descends. It flows down to everybody. And you just have to put yourself in that position. So, as one continues hearing about those residents of Vrindavan and applying one's senses in the service of the Lord, what we're doing is ajata ruchi raganuga sadhana bhakti, according to Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbha. We are performing activities like worshiping Tulsi, coming to the temple, offering ourselves before the Lord so He can see us, put us in His book. I saw you come in. When you go these meetings, corporate meetings, and even ISKCON meetings now, they bring in a book with your name in it. You got to sign it, and then they look later. Hey, this guy didn't even show up. Or you did. And I heard that Krishna has such a book too. That's why devotees come in, ring the bell. It's like, I'm here, count me. And then they put their hands up. Here I am. Please notice. There's devotional practices that are given by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And by following those, we're following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. Even before we have an emotional attachment, we have a deep interest in doing that because we understand the tattvas. We're no longer faked out by the false flags of the material world. We're interested only in tat paramam padam, the supreme destination. And we understand how to do that by emulating the roles of those in the spiritual world. How do we do that? Naturally, just by hearing. And then gradually, there's a sense of aspiring. We aspire to follow in their footsteps. There's a natural attraction that awakens within the heart. Pramāṇais tat-sad-ācārais tad-abhyāsair Nirantaram bodhayanatmanatmanam bhaktim apyutamam labech. Oh, you tell me where it's from. Huh? Yeah, it's from Brahma Samhita. Pramāṇais, from pramanam. You have to follow the scriptures. Pramāṇais tat-sad-ācārais, and you have to behave properly. Pramāṇais tat-sad-ācārais tad-abhyāsair. You have to have abhyāsa. You have to practice again and again. And about that, I'm going to read you a couple quotes. Do you want to hear a couple quotes about practice?
Yes.
Success is built before it is seen. Growth requires commitment. Leaders grow strongest in quiet consistency. I was really inspired by Success is Built Before It Is Seen, because in the early practices of devotional service, there's oftentimes complaints. How come I'm the only one who can't get anything? I've been left behind, and I have a taste, and so forth. But if we apply ourselves, pramāṇais, tat-sad-ācārais, tad-abhyāsair, practice. How much? A lot. How much should you practice? A lot. It's 2 words. How much? A lot. Some people make it 1 word, a lot. Okay, so how much? Abhyāsair, Nirantaram. He says, how much did you practice? Pretty much all the time. Nirantaram means without stopping. Bodhayanatmanatmana means then there will be awakening. Bodhayan means an awakening of the soul to the relationship with the Lord. Bodhayanatmanatmanam bhaktyam apyutamam labed. One will attain this bhakti. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Like this verse says, if you practice the first kind of bhakti properly, then naturally there will be an awakening. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. So this idea of raganuga, it's our practice, and we're fully equipped. Everything is there. Holy name is the consolidated practice given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's taken everything in all of the cultures of the Vedic system and all the Shastras, and he's put it in one place. We need that. And by chanting Hare Krishna without offense, then one can achieve the perfection of life, which we're just describing. Any more questions? Oh, okay. How much time do we have? 10 more minutes? 5 more minutes? Or are you raising your hand? Okay, 1, 2, 3. This is our lightning round to answer questions in 60 seconds or less.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. When you mentioned by hearing about Krishna and Krishna's energy, do you mean Krishna's internal energy that we need to hear about?
All his energies. We have to know everything. Vidyam cha yas tad-vedo bayam saha avidyayam ritum tirtva vidyayam ritum ashnate. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality, says the Shri Upanishad. Uratertam yat pratyeta na pratyeta chatmani tad vidyara manomayam yata bhaso yatatamaha. Krishna says to Brahma in a very important verse, because it's one of the seed verses of the Bhagavatam, that if you see anything, oh, Hare Krishna, Lokaram Prabhu. Welcome. Thanks for coming. If you see anything in this world as separate from Krishna, first of all, it's a big mistake, because there is nothing separate from Krishna. Ham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. This is the beginning stage of realization of the Lord's, that everything is part of Him, everything comes from Him. So if you see, when you see something separate, you're in illusion. And this is the very definition of illusion, is seeing something separate from Krishna. So when Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Atma Maya, he's talking about his energies, and according to the disposition of mind of the viewer, one may see something separate from Krishna, or one may see all of it, Krishna's work, energies working wonderfully. Even Krishna himself notices. Remember when he enters into the mouth of Aghasura? Remember that? Really? Everyone remembers? That's good, because it says in that chapter, if you, even by force, one time remember the form of Krishna. That's in the chapter of Aghasura. It says, if someone even by force, you can look it up, Mukundaravind. If someone even by force remembers the name of the Lord in one's mind, then vimukti is at hand. The complete liberation. So he's entering, as the cowherd boys entered into the mouth of Aghasura, Krishna noticed, he was thinking, please don't do that. And they went in anyway because they thought, well, Krishna's so wonderful. He saved us from Bakasura and everybody else. We'll just go in. What's the problem? And Krishna thought, my energies are very interesting, the way they're working. Even he noticed all the workings of his energy. So that was past a minute. But yes, it means internal, external. And here's the verse, proof positive. If even only once or even by force, one brings the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into one's mind, one can attain the supreme salvation by the mercy of Krishna, as did Aghasura. What then is to be said of those whose hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters when he appears as an incarnation, or those who always think of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for all living entities, and by whom all illusion is completely removed? Are you paying attention? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most encouraging thing you ever heard in your life, and 1 being you weren't listening, where was that verse on the scale? Okay, who's not going to say 10? So yes, all of Krishna's energies are we study all of Krishna's energies, and we marvel at them, and we understand the reason it's called tattva is because we have to understand the gradations of energy and not make mistakes. So Krishna categorizes the energies as lower and higher. And if you apply yourself to the lower energies, you're going to be disappointed, to say the least. And if you apply yourself to the higher energies, you'll be absorbed in such a way that you think there's no greater gain. So it's important to know all these energies and how to interact with them properly. Okay, next one. Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
4.
In this verse, we see that it said that Krishna takes away from them everything inauspicious. So everything that we lose in our life, should we think that Krishna took it away because it was inauspicious? Is this the way to learn how to process our loss and be more absorbed in bhakti?
According to Brahma, it is. Brahma says, Tate nukampam susamikshemano bunjana evatmakritam vipakam hritvagvapurvir viridam namaste jiveta yo mukti sadeta dayabak. Brahma opines that those who consider whatever happens to them as the mercy of the Lord. And in the case of the devotees, Prabhupada explains if there's some gain in the life of the devotee, one thinks, I was undeserving, Krishna's very merciful, gave me this. If there's a reversal of fortune, then the person thinks, I deserve much more than this, Krishna just gave me a token. What's more, in either case, he's teaching me how to be more dependent on him. And Sadhya Bhak means if you adopt this attitude, then you're eligible to inherit the kingdom of God. So you could make a case for that. And even Krishna says, Yasyaham anagrinami harishet taddanam shanai tato janam jajant yasya swajana dukadukitam. He said in special cases, he takes away everything from the devotee, so the devotee feels forlorn and only dependent on Krishna. And in some cases, like with Sudama, he gave him everything because Sudama, he noticed, did Krishna, that Sudama was attached to being renounced. And Krishna adjusted that by giving him more opulence than Indra and then said, here, now be renounced with this. Okay, next one. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Find out what time is over. Yeah.
Sorry, my question was around the word haram because it generally means Shiva and Adho refers to Shiva. So how, and it says haram, harim. So it will be good to get some context on that.
Here. And look up today's verse. The one we just did, Haram Harim. I'll check the commentaries from the other acharyas to see if there's specific mention of that word order. Otherwise, I'll do more research and come back to you in the next class. Yes. See if there's anything.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. You said a term, ajata ruchi raganuga bhakti. Can you explain what that is?
Ajata. Ja means to be born, and aja means without being born. So it's something that hasn't yet awakened, or in this way, it hasn't manifested yet. And ruchi means taste. Raganuga means the process of following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. And sadhana bhakti means kind of practice, as mentioned in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, iti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasyat. Just find the verse and I'll read it out loud. There's a verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which I know, but it's floating around a little out of my reach right now in my head, that says that sadhana bhakti, spoken by Rupa Goswami, is pregnant with bhava bhakti. So in other words, by practicing sadhana properly, kriti sadhya, which means executed by the senses, bhavet sadhya. So kriti sadhya indicates this beginning sadhana bhakti, sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatpratmena nirmalam. We're using all of our senses in the service of Krishna. External sense, internal sense. The mind is also a sense. Sadhya bhava, by which love of God is acquired. And so the translation is, when transcendental devotional service by which love for Krishna is attained is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service and practice. So the way that Jiva Goswami glosses it in his Sandarbha is to call it as ajata ruchi raganuga sadhana bhakti. So to essentialize it, the practices that we're doing are following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, as they were instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whether we have taste for them or not in the beginning doesn't mean that we can't practice them. We engage our senses and we follow in the footsteps of the Goswamis, who, as mentioned by Srinivasacharya, we heard last night, Sankhya Purvaka Namagana Natibi Kalavasani Kritao. They counted their bhakti that was scheduled. That's a kind of practice that we can emulate, because I'm not spontaneous, therefore I have practiced that. But it's following in their footsteps. And therefore, by that process, one will gradually become spontaneous. And Prabhupada gives an example. It's Prabhupada's example of moving from a regulative practice to a more spontaneous practice. He gives the example of a typewriter. And he says, when you're typing, in the beginning, you have to follow the book. And then gradually, as you continue to type, your fingers just do it automatically. So he gave that very simple, seemingly worldly example to explain that as we practice, we'll gradually become not only adept, but we'll become natural at it. And it's the natural, spontaneous emotion. As our natural, spontaneous emotion awakens, then we'll follow Krishna. But it begins with following in the footsteps of the Goswamis as they were here in this world. Okay, any last point? We've got to finish? Okay, so today we're going to go somewhere and Shraddha Devi Dasa is going to tell us about it. And nice if you write things down if you have questions or realizations. That's what those little notebooks are. Try to make a goal to fill it up for the end. Also, we'll have sessions where you can hand in your questions. We'll look at them and then answer questions. And in this way, we'll emulate today's verse, which is Smaranta smarayantascha Mito Gauga Haram Harim Bhaktis Sanjadhi Bhaktyas Ulam Pulakam Tanum. You'll feel ecstasy in your body. Or your money back. Full refund from this yatra if you don't feel ecstasy at your hair standing in. So we're going to be watching you, and it's all on film. That's why we have these films here. So if you try to fake us out, we're not giving your money back. So you better be really stoic and not show any emotion during the whole trip. Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Gauranitai, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. If you so desire, please let us apply the principles as given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Sri Guru Parampara. Enjoy full association with the devotees so we can absorb ourselves in the mood of this holy Dham. Thank you for considering our request. Om tat-sad. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna. Sharidat vijajao jotendriya tahekao jibe pele vishaya shagare. Page number. Dharma je jivayati loba more. What page? Take jeta Katita Shangshare Krishna Bhadatoya Moy Kori Bhare Jivajay Shaprashad Annadi Lobar Shayan 220 229 page 229. You're going to need it in a minute. Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Premi Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmadi Vaishnave Salpa Punya Batam Rajan Vishwaso Navajayate Prasade Sarva Dukanam Anirasyo Prajayate Prasana Chetasu Yashu Budipaya Patustate Tayopa Bhukta Sraganda Vasalankara Charchita Utishta Bojino Dasyas Tavamayam Jai Mahina Deshaniya Mastatrana Palaniya Mastata Praptamanam Dhritam Shrishta. Sorry, what did I miss? Shampriyushitam Bapi Dantam Didadeshata Dimatrena Bhoktavyam Chikala Vicharana Shaniya Mastatrana Kalaniya Mastata Praptamanam Dhritam Shishte Bhoktarem Hari Abravi. That's page 229. You can make a tattoo of that on your arm so you can remember it. Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasad Ki Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Please come take prasadam, and we'll leave on time so that we have more time at Haridas Thakur's. So if you want to socialize, we'll do it after we get back from the program. And get your book bag, remember the steps, and if you didn't do this, if you haven't done this before, you can just watch somebody and you'll pick it up within 2 minutes of how to distribute the books. And loud Harinam, beautiful Harinam, and smile and wave to everybody. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalptarishcha kripasinabheva chapatitanam pavanebhyo